So I wanted to, kind of hopefully do a little bit of full circle, but also connect some of the dots using some of the experiences that I have had at University of Washington and the collaborations that I have had. I want to start with kind of a story, and some of you actually might be familiar with parts of the story because it is actually based on a true story. Where greening of the cities, especially in the concrete jungles and the urban environments, is becoming a high priority, right? What is that built environment? How do we build up that green infrastructure so that we can better be more resilient to the heat domes, to all the different changing climates we can adapt? And perhaps they also can help with absorbing pollution, decreased body temperature, whatnot, for all the benefits that Jeremy can probably talk way more and better than I can. And so there was a city where their plan was to plant 1,000 trees a year. They had actually funding to do so. These are free trees. And so they prioritized going to Black and brown communities that were low income to really ask them, hey, here's a tree or two, like, what do you want? And then be able to plant them over the years. And what the tree planters realized when they were going door to door was 1 out of 4 people were actually saying no thanks, and closing that door. And so we might all wonder, like, why is that? And so, of course, the research group, not UW, research group goes in and asks, like, why is that? Is it about not knowing the benefits of tree canopy and, like, its role in climate change? Is it that maybe they were renters, right? And, like, as renters, you can't say yes to something that's a more permanent fixture of a change. Maybe they didn't like the trees being offered, because that's what my partner was like, what kind of trees did they offer? Because I'm going to be picky. But it actually was, once they talked to people and asked about that, it was because none of those reasons, they knew the benefits, they got all of that. It was because of how the tree planters had presented themselves and that they were not from that community. And the project was also not created with the community, so it wasn't a co-creation project. And it actually went back to, like, intergenerational trauma and history, where that community had experienced a lot of policing, but brutality, and through that, urban legend, two things says. One thing is the police killed the trees so that they can police more efficiently through helicopters. And so a lot of trees died down a generation ago. And so they were thinking about that when people were showing up with trees, not from that town and whatnot. And then the other urban legend is, it was coincidence that there was a disease that wiped out the trees, that just happened so, but that really broke a lot of the trust that people have from people outside the community that are coming into the community. And so I really think about this example quite a bit in my work because, A, I don't want to become that example of starting a project where that solution was just not what was needed or asked for by that community, but also to think, it's an example that's a little bit older, like about a decade ago, and we can do better together, right? We can do better with the innovation and the creation that we do, and because right now we're in that momentum where everybody is doing everything all at once together at the same time. And in doing so, we could do better, and we can also be more hopeful. And as you all know, UW, massive place, so many schools, so many technical expertise, so much research being done. And so when we think about how do we scale that solution, I often think about how do you start with the solution? What is the question we're asking, and what is that research question being asked of us that we're answering? Because the more we can really hone in and shape it to match what the community is asking for, the potential for impact and the meaningfulness of our work is going to just get exponentially higher. And so one of the things I really spend a lot of time around is really thinking about, like, how do we center community voice, not just talking to them and saying, like, how did I do, which is not ideal, right? We want to start from the beginning, the conception of the idea or inception of ideas of what should we do, kind of like what Rachel talked about, and what should we do? This is kind of what my work is, but I might not actually be the best fit here. What do you want? And then finding, like, the right partners and the collaborations, because this all takes a lot of teamwork together. And so one of the examples that I want to just give is a project that I've worked on actually as a student and watched it evolve as a staff and now as a faculty. Having students that I now mentor in the project is the Washington Environmental Health Disparities Map. And it's an example of what I consider, like, intentional and meaningful conversation, collaboration, and really thinking about what does community want first. And so these are actual pictures from 2017 on asking community on what do you need? Well, how are you experiencing pollution? What are the things that you need to get to a healthier neighborhood and to thrive, not just survive, but go to the thriving part? And a Front and Center, which I now work for, they approached us as a technical, research group in asking, hey, we're looking for technical partners to build this tool with us because we see a need for such a tool. We don't know how to do it because we're not the geospatial experts. And so at the time, I raised my hand because I was a student looking for a project that a community was asking for, and so stars aligned. And now fast forward 2 years, I can talk days about it as well. 2 years later, with this collaboration of community groups leading the way, really facilitating the conversation, and state agencies saying, you know what, we have resources, we're a state agency, we're here for people, and University of Washington saying we have technical skills. We came up with the Washington Environmental Health Disparities Map that now is incorporated in so many different state laws that actually help prioritize resources, actually help figure out how much of the millions and billions of dollars that are being allocated through the different revenue sources and through the cap and trade program. And it's incorporated into 7 different state agencies' decision-making on strategic planning and budgeting for environmental justice for Department of Health, Commerce, Ecology, Transportation, you name it. And so it used to keep me up at night because that was a lot of burden on if I mess up, I'm gonna mess it up for us all. But now with Department of Health and that collaboration and the partnership that we have, it's actually a fun conversation we get to do. And one of the students here that's working on the project is also here with us too, where we can think about, these are our technical skills. This is what we can do with data and what exists in the methods that we do. How do we make sure that it's the most relevant for people? Because I can come up with any map, but will it get used? Probably not, unless I do it with community and with the people that we very much work with and build relationships intentionally with. And so one of the other examples, we're kind of really channeling a lot of that collaboration and the trust that we have built over the years is we recently launched that yet another center, that Center for Environmental Health Equity. And we launched it in thinking about it as kind of a technical assistance center or house. So a front door, not the front door, but a front door for community groups and tribes to come up and say, hey, we need help with this environmental or energy justice issue. And I'll give 2 examples of it. So one is a group asked us, hey, we want to do this business plan around really thinking about what is an economic model for community to kind of run their own business and build up their own space. So it might be owning land, it might be owning their building, it might be really supporting business planning. Do you have any experts or people that you might be able to connect us to? And of course, that's not my jam. So we spent, and I had a staffer spend 6 weeks looking for the right partner with expertise and whatnot. And then we connected them and they're still talking. And so that's kind of one of the things that we have done where we really think about who is kind of the right technical skill holding person that we can connect people to because we're all in this together. Another example is there was a group that asked us, hey, we know where places of gathering is where it might be a community center or a church or a community building. We want to transition to clean energy because our bills are skyrocketing for all the different reasons in climate change. We don't know how to do that. And we imagine UW has some experts that know how to create the pathway, literally looking at our bills, to our building, to the assessment, to actually giving us a roadmap for how to do the conversion. So then we can then find funding and do that conversion, which then UW, I imagine, would be a partner for. And so that collaboration is still going on, and it's an 8-month collaboration and ongoing. And so there are many different kind of sprawling conversations, or I like to describe of them as kind of sprawling things, where I think in 5-10 years from now, it'll be so fun to kind of look back and think, what did we do and how do we do it better by really centering community voice in all the different co-creation of the solutions and testing it, right? Some solutions have to be tested. And so how do we do that? How do we do that for the better? And the last thing I'll kind of close with is really thinking about this as a collaboration and partnership. One of the things that really helps me navigate all of the injustices that I do witness is the people as part of it. There's so much fun and joy and creativity in it. I have had surprisingly large amounts of meetings where you use the filters on Zoom, but people are like a rabbit and a dinosaur. And we've had serious meetings about budget or inequities and government processes in that because we need to have fun doing it, right? Because otherwise it's not as fun, and also we are, as humans, like to have some fun in our work. And so with that, I'll kind of leave it there. Happy to talk about a lot of the different elements that I talked today. So.